Caicos and the Turk Islands all the way up toward New Providence Island, and we've got a hurricane watch north of there, back to the Bimini chain and northward all the way to Freeport, including all of Grand Bahama Island. But for the time being, there are no hurricane watches or warnings on the mainland United States. That could all change later on tonight, however.
Mexico. Do expect to see wet weather, though, throughout much of the east. The
Carolina, Cape Hatteras, still well out to the Bahama Islands. It's 800 miles south-southeast of Cape Hatteras. Winds now sustained at 150 miles an hour, 173. That is a major hurricane. On a scale of 1 to 5, being 5 the worst and 1 the weakest, it is a 4, getting close to a Category 5. It is the fourth lowest pressure at 918. That's the fourth lowest pressure hurricane since we've seen hurricanes here in America. And it's moving northwest at 15, which will bring it past the Bahama Islands. But right now, on its present track, it could play a part in the weather from the Carolinas northward to New England. So if you live anywhere in that area, you'll need to watch the system rather than you look at your local weather.
Held and
the Weather Channel and get your updates. You're watching your local forecast on the Weather Channel. There's more weather from around the country and around the block still to come on the Weather Channel.
Rico, and this storm system made its way over the past 24 hours on a steady course toward the northwest. Now, the course for the next day or so is still a little bit indeterminate. A difference in the track of 100 to 200 miles can certainly change the impact that it will have on the eastern seaboard if it does at all. If it does make its way near the coast, it'll have a tremendous impact because this is a very, very intense storm. Just to put it into perspective, Hurricane Gloria is stronger than Hurricane Diana was last year, stronger than Hurricane Alicia was a few years back, and certainly stronger than Hurricane Elena just earlier this month. So we're dealing with a very severe storm, and it continues to make its way off toward the northwest. So far, no hurricane watches or warnings in effect. Let's take a different view of this storm. This is the very latest satellite picture, the colorized view. North of the Dominican Republic, northeast of the Bahamas, the storm system really dominating the tropical Atlantic, and you can see the aerial coverage of the storm taking up several hundred miles at this point. No current watches, advisories along the Atlantic seaboard. However, that does not mean the storm system should not be taken seriously. It certainly should, because it does pose a threat to sections of the Atlantic coast and even as far north as southern New England. Here's the way it stands right now if you're plotting it, about 650 miles to the south-southeast of Cape Hatteras, moving off toward the northwest at 15 miles per hour. There's its position if you're plotting it. Top winds of 150 miles per hour, gusts to 170 miles per hour, and the central pressure a little bit up now from what it was earlier this morning, but still pretty darn low at 929 millibars. Hurricane force winds certainly surrounding the eye of the storm, again as high as 150 miles per hour. Gales as far as 200 miles away, and along with that, 12-foot seas as far as 200. We get a better handle on what the actual course will be. Not much going on.
conversation with Neil Frank, director of the National Hurricane Center. The subject, vertical evacuation.
Say for some reason the bridge goes underwater or is damaged by a boat that's broken away. What are we going to do as a last resort? Well, maybe we could go up into the interior of the hallways or into the common use areas of some of these big condominiums and survive. That's a last resort. I wouldn't want to go up in a building right on the waterfront where the wave actions are so big, but maybe we could go across the street or go back on the bayshore and go up into those kind of buildings. We've encouraged governments now to look into this concept for about 10 years. It's plagued with some legal problems. If you tell a person to go up in a building like that, you're implying they would be reasonably safe, and then let's say a barge breaks loose and hits a building and part of it collapses and somebody gets killed, who's legally liable? But look, when you're out there and you can't get off, you don't have any alternative. You've got to get up.
Our tropical update with John Hope. In just a couple of more minutes, please stay tuned.
Works as hard as you do. And I tell you, your body's going to have to work kind of hard across the Southland. A well-wound storm with winds that are like 150 miles per hour. That's sustained winds gusting up over 170 miles per hour. That's gusts now, okay? If you're tracking the storm, here it is, 26.8 by 72.8, 600 miles to the south-southeast of Cape Hatteras. There it is, and you can see the track the storm has taken. It is moving toward the northwest at around 15 miles per hour. Now, there is a hurricane watch that is out now for these coastal areas from Virginia Beach down to Cape Lookout. And, of course, along with the storm, the gale winds from this system is reaching outward from the center of the storm about 200 miles or so. The hurricane force winds are mainly to the west and the north of the eye of the storm. Now, as far as the strike likelihoods right now, it looks as though the Carolina coastal area would be the highest likelihood, and really anything all the way on down in through the Georgia coastal areas and on up in through the northeast really should stay in time.
Gloria, which is a powerful hurricane, located now in the Atlantic Ocean east of the Bahamas. Here's a black and white satellite picture that we've had recently. You can see
A conversation with Neil Frank, director of the National Hurricane Center. The subject, hurricane forecasting.
Now, hurricanes move along in the atmosphere very much like blocks of wood move along in rivers of water. We have rivers of water in the atmosphere. Now, the rivers of water in the atmosphere are different than the rivers of water on land in one major way. There's no river banks in the atmosphere, so the rivers move. There's a myth